Okay, so what has been your experience thus far implementing blended learning? And then you might want to talk about some of the differences between what you expected and then the reality of what implementation has really been like.
Oh, starting with me.
Anybody can start.
I expected the chaos because that's what we took from the training, the summer training. That's what I expected. I did not expect how much details we needed to put, like the front loading that we needed to do before we actually, give them a playlist or give them the stations or whatever we're doing. I didn't realize that, because normally when you need to plan something so strategically and to the point, it's like there's no chaos, there's no issue with that, but it's like you try and think of everything that could possibly go wrong and like it still goes wrong. So it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, we made a comment last week about how I personally felt like these kids were some of the lowest kids I've had academically, and Fennel made the comment, well, do you think it's that we just have never had the data that we now have on these kids to really assess their academic level? And I said that's a very valid point, because I know more about my kids academically and personally than I ever have before. And with their freedom in the classroom, it gives us freedom to have conferencing with them, as well as just random conversations, throughout the day when they need something or when they're going through something. And then also with all the data that's available and learning what's of value and not of value, we're really able to analyze their academic achievement and able to cater their learning, which is we're slowly moving into that realm with student choice and to able to show mastery.
And we're getting to a point to where the kids have access to their data just as much as we do. And so they're able to come to us and say, I really need help on this. And that's great because that narrows our instruction specifically for that kid so that they can figure out where their weaknesses are and make them their strengths.
Going back to the idea of how we felt getting into it and adjusting, like acclimating to the whole thing, I felt like at the beginning we all felt a lot more comfortable being more lockstep with each other and in the planning, and we still rely on each other collaboratively to plan, but we feel more comfortable now kind of doing modifications within our own classrooms and kind of personalizing it for each of our own styles to get more mileage out of it with the students. I know that I've got pre-AP and on-level, and the on-level kids seem to really flourish with the blended approach, whether it's station rotation, anything we're doing to personalize it, or making it a playlist type of a situation for them. The pre-AP kids, they like it, but some of them are so rigidly bound to what they expect in a pre-AP classroom. It's been a longer process for them to get used to that freedom, and that they don't necessarily all have to be doing the same thing at the same time and silent while they're working. And it's been great to see them work more collaboratively, and as they've caught on, they've matched what the on-level kids are doing as far as productivity.
I'm sorry. Since he brought up the pre-AP, the inclusion kids with the blended, it gives them it's all the responsibility on them. You have to have this in by this date. Well, the inclusion kids are used to having their hand held the whole time, and it's just expecting grades to be passing them. But it's hard for them because one, they're getting into high school where it's a little more, you have to have your grades, you have to turn your assignments in, you're not gonna just pass and go through, and then I'm giving them the freedom to decide what they're doing, what they're focusing on, and this is when it has to be due kind of thing. So it's like they'll have the work done and they'll just stick it in their bag and then just not turn it in, and then it's hard to, and they're like, well, you didn't tell me. I'm like, I'm not supposed to keep telling you how to do it. You just know this is the date it's due, this is when you turn it in. So it's been a process.
Hill was saying something in our class last night. She was telling me that she this year has not had one student blame her for any missing work or having a low grade, because the students have had to take complete responsibility of their grades. And I'm experiencing the same thing in my classroom, and that's a win.
And the
Yeah.
parents too, like when parents email me, all I have to say is, it's online, it's on Canvas, here's the link, do you have internet at home? If not, this is the tools that we use in school. I mean, there's just no question about what is going on in the classroom, and that has been the biggest blessing.
Well, I have like 4 kids in ISS, and they email us, oh, this kid's in there, I'm like, oh, it's on Canvas, he knows how to log it in, and they have logged in and been able to print up the assignments in there, it's on there for them. Like the only issue is that ISS has like a couple of Chromebooks and not enough, so it's like first come, first served, but still, they have it available, and they can print up the notes, and they did that, and they're getting their work
I think
done, so.
we've all experienced
It's crazy.
the student ownership jumping way up, and as a result of that, it frees us to focus on other things. We're not having to force the horse to go to the water, right? They know where the water is now, and they go to when they're thirsty, and we can just help in other areas. We can focus on things that help their experience individually, and we can fine tune our instruction.
I think 2 of our biggest strengths this year that have prevailed like no other are student ownership, taking responsibility, becoming a high school student that understands that they are now in charge of their learning. And 2 is the data, and us using the data and us communicating that data to them, because there's things that I would tell these kids, and they're like, nobody's told me that before, I didn't know that. You know, and now they're realizing I have to put in the work too, in order to accomplish this, because I'm not reading on a high school level, I'm reading on a lower level. And as humbling as that is for them, when I told the kids, because we did it in a very, reassuring, helpful way, I did not have one kid cry or one kid get discouraged. It was just, this is a challenge you face, so how are we together going to help you face this challenge this school year?
Right.
So, and one thing that we use from our Texas Tech course is this personalized learning blueprint plan. And one part is having student input on their learning and how to create assignments, create an environment that they feel comfortable and successful in.
There are 2 things in those student teacher conferences that we get to have in the classroom now. We get more information from the kids. One thing is when the student is able to vocalize with us, a kid that would normally hide and blend in the classroom now is able to sit with us for 3 to 5 minutes and say, this is what's really challenging for me. I don't understand this part. This is where I'm lost. Or I totally get this. I know how to do this stuff. It helps a great deal. The other thing is when we're sharing that information of their data with them, you can see the shift in their mindset. I can. Especially when it's a kid that's really challenged and they have a long way to go. They'll go from withdrawing and avoiding and distracting in class to now it's, oh, I got work to do. And you can see that moment happen.
Yeah.
And was other thing that some of the challenges that we faced again was, I said, these kids are still extremely needy for us.
Yeah.
And it took a good 6 weeks for us to get all the kinks out with the logging in system when it comes to getting in the Chromebook, getting in Canvas, getting in the computer, Nimbeam, all those things. Now that those kinks are worked out, it works beautifully. The other thing that we're struggling with is we have a large turnover in our population. So we're constantly getting new students in, or students are switching from class to class to class. And like I had a student, she's like, I'm doing my Nimbeam minutes, I'm doing them. And I'm like, oh, you came from Mr. Reed and you're still doing them under Mr. Reed's class. So I can't see what you're doing. And so those are definitely been challenges. And I expected the electronic situation to be a challenge because not many of our kids have internet at home or have cell phones. I didn't realize how big of a challenge that would be, because when we read Catlin Tucker's book, she would say, this is how you eliminate these issues if kids do not have internet at home, things like this. And I was like, okay, this is reassuring. But then when I do an online quiz and I really need one-to-one, I am amazed by how many kids are like, my cell phone's shut off. I don't have internet on my phone. I need more Chromebooks. And
Or they rely on the Wi-Fi.
Yes, and the Wi-Fi.
is.
Yeah, so, and those are things that I guess we're expected to have those kinks. I'm really looking forward to the time when Blended expands a little bit more to where we have the one-on-one for the kids. Especially because most of them actually prefer to use the Chromebook versus their cell phone.
It's hard. I was trying to look at the no red ink and like play with it on my phone, and I was just like, oh, this is like, I had to make sure it's turned, and then if I click something wrong, because it's harder to see the big picture of like the unit or the lesson and stuff like that. So I get it, but I also have off the record 25 Chromebooks.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little easier.
That needs to be redacted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want this on camera, but.